declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
A life that most certainly was. For more than 7 decades, Queen Elizabeth II has been, in times of tumult, terror and change, a symbol of continuity, commitment and calm.
I have been privileged to witness some of that history, and with the support of my family, rededicate myself to the service of our great country.
Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor's extraordinary life began in April of 1926, born into a family with 160 staff and 5 palaces. At 10, she became first in line to the throne, thrust towards a life in the spotlight. She first addressed her nation and the Empire during World War II. As the children of London were evacuated, the 14-year-old princess offered words of comfort through the wireless.
We know, every one of us, all will be well, for God will care for us and give us victory and peace.
And when peace finally did come, Princess Elizabeth and her sister secretly joined the celebrating crowds on the streets. 2 years later, she married a Greek-born naval officer and distant cousin, Philip Mountbatten. Before long, Charles, the first of their 4 children, was born, but she would never simply be a naval wife and mother. The declining health of King George VI was all too clear during his faltering Christmas address in 1951.
At Christmas we feel that the old, simple things matter most. They do not change, however much the world outside may seem to do so.
2 months later, Elizabeth's cherished father was dead.
Now Britain buries her king, and the nations come to pay their homage. Tragic in sombre black, the ladies of his house follow. The Queen Mother, and Princess Margaret, together in their grief.
The coronation of the 27-year-old sovereign followed a year later. The shy, softly spoken Elizabeth II was presented to the world.
In a way, I didn't have an apprenticeship. My father died much too young, and so it was all a very sudden kind of taking on.
Within a year, the new Queen came to Australia, the first British monarch to do so. It was the first of her 16 visits to the Antipodes.
We have enjoyed this visit immensely, and thank all those who have come out to welcome us.
In all, she made more than 260 overseas trips, taking her to well over 100 different countries. Many of her visits reflected a changing world. Others gently encouraged it. Every now and then, her attire was far from regal, and often her presence was enormously important. In 2011, Queen Elizabeth became the first British sovereign to visit the Republic of Ireland in 100 years.
It is a sad and regrettable reality that our islands have experienced more than their fair share of heartache, turbulence and loss. With the benefit of historical hindsight, we can all see things which we would wish had been done differently, or not at all.
Much of what happened under Elizabeth II's reign has been shaped by powerful international forces. Decolonisation swept across the British Empire. In the Empire's place had evolved the Commonwealth, which began with a handful of nations and now has more than 50 members. The Queen regarded it as one of her greatest achievements. Controversy would plague the early years of the monarch's reign. Shortly after her coronation, the Queen denied her sister Margaret the right to marry the divorced Air Force captain Peter Townsend. There were constitutional crises too. When England's involvement in the Suez Canal crisis of 1956 forced Prime Minister Anthony Eden's resignation, the Queen appointed his successor, Harold Macmillan, taking the advice of Winston Churchill and surprising many. Then, in 1975, her representative in Australia, the Governor-General Sir John Kerr, sacked the Prime Minister, Gough Whitlam.
Well may we say, God save the Queen. Because nothing will save the Governor-General.
In 1979, the civil unrest known as the Troubles in Northern Ireland struck directly at the Queen's family. An IRA bomb killed Lord Louis Mountbatten, her second cousin and confidant. The Queen herself had a number of security scares. In 1981, 6 blanks were fired near her during the trooping of the colour in the Mall. The horse was spooked. The rider didn't flinch. A year later, the Queen woke to find a man sitting on the end of her bed in Buckingham Palace.
The Queen chatted with the intruder for a few minutes and then, on the pretext of getting him a cigarette, went to the door and summoned help.
The 90s were among the most difficult of decades for the Queen. In 1992, the royal family began to fracture. The Queen's son, Prince Andrew, separated from the Duchess of York. Her daughter, Princess Anne, got divorced, and Prince Charles's marriage to Princess Diana was falling apart with news of his affair with Camilla Parker Bowles. On top of that, a huge part of Windsor Castle was ruined by a massive fire.
1992 is not a year on which I shall look back with undiluted pleasure. In the words of one of my more sympathetic correspondents, it has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
But perhaps the greatest challenge to the Queen's popular standing came with the death of Princess Diana in 1997.
Rescue workers took some time to free Diana from the wreckage. She was taken to a nearby hospital but died several hours later after emergency surgery.
Elizabeth II was stung by criticism of her reaction, considered by some as cold. Belatedly and under enormous pressure, she spoke to a grieving kingdom.
What I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness.
In 2002, the Queen lost her sister Margaret and her beloved mother, who died aged 101.
I thank you from my heart for the love you gave her during her life and the honour you now give her in death.
But despite the constant gaze of the people, little was known about the private life of the most public of figures. Her love of horses was legendary.
You naughty boy.
She bred them, rode them, and enjoyed a flutter.
Many congratulations.
Kind of. Thank you very much. What do I get?
Well, you get £16.
£16?
£16 for winning.
She was the world's most famous working mother.
What do you mean? Rolling.
Who strove to balance work and family life.
Yes, you always go straight for very speed.
Yes. Ow! It's my foot you're standing on. Yep.
In 1992, the BBC was granted intimate access to the monarch, who gave a glimpse of her humanity and humour rarely seen in public.
Clothes-wise, does it look all right with the background?
Yes, it does.
I mean, jolly like it'd be awful if you said no, because I don't know something else.
So you're going to give a knighthood to General Schwarzkopf.
Oh, right. I don't mind that.
Yes.
Work and ceremony were constant companions.
Assuming you were going to do it, so it's probably a very good time.
As were her much-loved dogs.
Ray, you're not supposed to do that. I won't hear. Go away. I'm not here. Go and do your stuff. Ray! Go on. Go on.
In 2015, Queen Elizabeth became the longest reigning British monarch and a year later turned 90. As she celebrated that milestone, the monarch was happy to quip about her mortality.
Are you well?
Thank you very much. I'm still alive.
Nice to see you again.
In her final years, she faced a number of problems. Prince Andrew stepped back from public duties as more details emerged of his friendship with the alleged sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Prince Andrew was later accused of sexual assault, settling the case out of court for an undisclosed amount of money. The royal family splintered, with Prince Harry and his wife Meghan announcing they would no longer be working royals after struggling under the media spotlight. The Sussexes also accused the royal family of racism before the birth of their son Archie.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? There is a conversation. Hold up.
There are several conversations.
There's a conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh.
But it was the loss of her husband that perhaps affected Queen Elizabeth the most. Prince Philip, who had been by her side for 73 years, died in 2021.
He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years.
COVID restrictions meant the Queen was seated alone at his funeral. For most of her reign, the Queen was in good health, with only rare hospital visits. But as her Platinum Jubilee approached, she had to spend a night in hospital in October 2021. And then a few weeks later, she sprained her back, forcing her to pull out of Remembrance Day commemorations.
How are you?
Well, as you can see, I can't move.
She became more selective about the events she attended, which meant missing the opening of the UK Parliament in 2022, the first time she'd been absent in nearly 6 decades.
Her Majesty's government will play a leading role in defending democracy and freedom across the world.
But when the time came to celebrate 70 years of service to her people, the Queen received a jubilant reception. She missed several Platinum Jubilee events due to mobility issues, but a surprise balcony appearance, flanked by 3 generations of her family, capped a spectacular grand finale.
Happy Jubilee, ma'am. And thank you for everything.
At an age when most people are well and truly enjoying their retirements, the Queen continued to work almost every day. Throughout her reign, the Queen held true to her promise. She dedicated her entire life to serving her country and the Commonwealth.
It's a question of maturing into something that one's got used to doing and accepting the fact that here you are and it's your fate, because I think continuity is very important. It is a job for life.